looking at um, working with color really inside of Premiere Pro. So I know there's a lot of video editors that are very experienced Photoshop users maybe, and you're newer to Premiere Pro, and you're very comfortable making adjustments to images and stuff like that, but maybe you're still trying to learn how to get the full control over Premiere. So I'm going to show you a couple of things in here. I'm going to show you a little bit about just basic adjustments to make your footage look good inside of Premiere. But then I'm going to show you how to leverage what you already know in Photoshop. I'm going to show you two things. First of all, I'm going to show you just basically how to take a piece of footage and then edit that like you would edit an image inside of Photoshop and then get exactly the same result inside of Premiere with your video. Then the other thing I'm going to show you is how to get reliable results. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a custom LUT, which is two types of LUTs. I'm going to show you the creative LUT, but I'm also going to show you a great starting place, which will enable you to match your cameras and enable you to match your camera to the light and everything like that. So it gives you a really good, clean starting place, because sometimes you get color cast, you get different types of things like that, and the footage doesn't really look the way you expect it. Maybe your white balance was set wrong, or whatever, or the light was changing. So I'm going to show you how to get a very reproducible color, and then that's also a great starting place to apply the creative stuff afterwards, because if you don't have a reliable starting place, how do you know your creative looks are going to work? So anyway, so enough of that. Let's get started. So I'm just going to start here for just a piece of footage. I'm going to just drag this in here in Premiere Pro into a new sequence. We're just going to create a sequence. Now, just to let you know, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be using today is from my drone. This one here is from the Phantom 3 Professional. I currently have a Phantom 4 Professional, Phantom 4 Inspire 1. I have a number of drones, but this particular one is the one I'm going to work with just for now. Some of you probably know me as an aerial photographer, videographer. Others of you know me as the founder of PhotoshopCAFE and doing a lot of Photoshop tutorials. So I am in love with both of these things. So anyway, so here's a shot here. This is just looking at some surface from above. This is in Waikiki, Hawaii. And you can just kind of see them. It probably is not going to run as smooth on your screen because of the the internet connection, but you get the general idea. There's not a lot of movement going on here. But this is straight out of the camera. I shot this with the D-Log on the Phantom, so it's a very neutral. So I like to shoot with low contrast, and then that way what it does is it gives me more dynamic range, meaning I've got detail here. You see the skin's not blown out on the people. And also we've got all our shadow detail and our highlight detail, but it lacks the punch. It's not ready for presentation. So when you shoot soft like this, then in post is when you're going to give it the punch. And then some people are like, okay, now I'm in post. How do I do that? Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of things right now. I'm just going to change this to the color workspace. And I'm just going to go down here and reset it just to make sure that we've got the default settings here. And you'll notice we've got something called Lumetri Color here. So this is our Lumetri Color panel. And this is a really great thing. I'm not going to go too much into it right now. We'll look at some different things as we go. Let me just see if I can move that thing out of the way. There we go. You probably can't see it, but it's the GoToWebinar thing. All right, so this is an unedited image, and I'm just going to hit the M to click on there. Actually, sorry, I'm hit the F key to match frame. So you can see over there, this is the unadjusted, and here in the program monitor, this is where we're going to be working for our adjustments. So some of these adjustments that have been added in here are really nice in the Lumetri panel because it looks a lot like Lightroom. So you could, warm it up or cool it down just by moving these things around. We can play around with our exposure. See that? We can play around with contrast. We can increase our contrast. We can play around with our highlights. We can do all these different things. Let me open up shadows, for example. Push some whites and some blacks. And you can see you can very quickly begin to make those adjustments, just like you would work in Lightroom. So it's a lot easier to work with. I'm going to go here than some of the like the three-way color corrector and stuff like that, which are very powerful tools, and you definitely should learn those and become familiar with them. So what I'm going to do, you'll notice here under our effects control, we've got a Lumetri color, we can see that's before and after. So what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to take it off here. And now I'm going to show you how to do this inside of Photoshop, but we're not going to be editing video. What we're going to do is we're just going to edit a photograph in Photoshop, and then we're going to make it look exactly the same right here inside of Premiere Pro. So what we're going to do is go down to see where you see the little camera here, and what that will do is will enable us to take a screen capture of any screen. So I'm just going to click OK, and what it's going to do is it's going to add it to our project. So we need to go to our bin here, which is where our project is, and we're just going to scroll down, and you'll see there's our photograph. Where's our photograph? It should have been added in there. Oh, there we go. Okay, I found it. I'm sorry about that. It just went into a different folder. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to right click here, and then we want to edit this inside of Photoshop. So I'm just going to grab it here, and then we can right click here, and okay, I am doing something completely wrong. What am I doing wrong here? I really apologize. This just doesn't happen. No, it happens to you guys either, right? Okay, so this should have a edit. There we go. Edit in Photoshop. All right. So everything will go smoothly from here on out. I apologize for that, guys. I don't know where my brain was at. Okay, so here we go. We're inside the Layers panel now, inside of Photoshop. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to pull out the Layers panel, and we're just going to work here like we normally would working with adjustment layers. So we're just going to go here, add some curves. And right now, this is just a screen capture from the video that we're working with. So let me just pull that down, and we're going to give it a little boost of contrast there. That looks nice. And just to show you that I can work with multiple layers, we'll add something else. Let's add a selective color adjustment. And we're going to go down to, let's go to some cyans maybe. We can play around with that, give it a little boost there. What do we look like there? And the yellows, maybe clean that up a little bit and darken it down. All right, so we've got a couple of adjustments there, see that? And now what we're going to do is, you could apply as many adjustments as you want. Just make sure you use the adjustment layers. And at this point, we're going to save these out as a custom LUT. So we're just going to choose File, Export. Then under Export, we're going to choose Color Lookup Tables. And I'm going to name this one, let's just call it Surf. And you can just do a 3DL or a cube, doesn't really matter at this point. We just click OK. And now we're going to get a location to drop. I'm going to put it on my desktop, and I'm going to call it Surf. And that's just a LUT. We're going to click Save. Okay, so let's go back into Premiere. And here we are in Premiere Pro right now, and let me make sure that I'm in my effects control, and I'm going to click on there, make sure that we don't have any adjustments there. Okay, so there's no LUTs or anything applied. So here we go. This is our unedited footage. Now, if we go to the Lumetri color here and we choose the input LUT, or we could go to creative and do it that way too. In a minute, I'll show you what's the difference, because we can apply a LUT in both. But right now, we're going to go in here, and I'm just going to choose to browse, and we're going to find that LUT. There's our Surf 3DL, and click OK. Now that applies it. So if you look at this right now, let me make it a little bigger, and then we tab between there and Photoshop. Look at that. So we now have exactly the same adjustment that we created inside of Photoshop. We were able to apply that to our video, and look how nice and clean that is. And I can hide that and show it. So if we turn it off, there it was before, and there it is after. We're able to bring back that contrast and really pop that color right there inside of Premiere Pro. And the cool thing about that is that LUT there that we've created, that Surf LUT, you can use that in After Effects, Premiere, you can use it in Photoshop. So that's a completely reusable LUT, and also when we work on our footage later, we can apply this whenever we want. We can reuse it just in one click. Now the other thing is, you're probably aware, you can also do presets and stuff from within Premiere. I should probably just mention that. So, if you've got a Lumetri color thing here, you can save that as a preset, and then, maybe we call this one Surf, and then you'll find that under your presets in your project folder, and under your adjustments. let's show you here. So if we go under our effects here, and you'll see presets, there's our presets right there. So if I was to go back here and remove this from this video footage, see, there we go, we've got nothing applied. We could go back here and at any time we could just apply that and get that same result. So it's always going to be there. All right, so you can reuse those over and over again. Now the other thing is, when we're down here, if we go to the creative folder, we've got LUTs. We have built-in LUTs. You can see these, they come with, right there, we can apply those that come with Premiere Pro. So now if you wanted to edit these, we could add maybe a faded film effect, increase the intensity, I don't know, just give it a vignette. I'm not really trying to do anything specific, but I'm just showing you this little technique here. So if we wanted to put a vignette around it, maybe basic adjustments, maybe make it a little brighter. Let's bring back our highlight detail. So once you've got a LUT that you like, you can also reuse it by clicking here. You can export it as a look or a cube. So those are both LUTs. So you can also create LUTs from right here within Premiere Pro. All right, so let's move on a little bit and take it a little bit deeper. I'm just going to go down to my workspace that I set up here, and I'm going to reset this. And this will make it a little bit easier for me to work with. Okay, so let's go drag this out a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that's really useful. So I'm going to open up a bit of footage here. I'm just going to click to open it. And some of you might be familiar with this. And what we've got here, this is a color checker video from X-Ray. Now, why did I take a video of this? If you look at it there, you can see I've just got a video. It's not moving or anything. It doesn't even necessarily look that good, But the reason is because I set this up with my quadcopter and I took a photograph of this in this lighting condition. Now, this is how we can get predictable results. So if you want to be able to have different, like maybe you're working with a GoPro, you're working with an SLR, you're working with a couple of different drones, or maybe you're just working with two different types of drones. Maybe you have an Inspire and a Phantom, or whatever. You've got mixed footage and you want them to match. What you've got to do, and we've been doing this, for years in photography, and so for some people in video, they haven't been doing this. You need to know what you've got as, very basic. You want to know what is a black, what is a white, and what is a gray. And if you have those on every single one of your cameras, all you got to do is take a picture of this. In this case, I took a video. I could take a picture. It doesn't matter as long as I have it, because now I have a known quantity. Like these colors are all known. I know that that's a black. I know that's a white. I know that's an 18% gray. If I have that on my cameras, I can match those. And the good thing is I can actually create a profile that I can reuse, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is just straight out of the camera. I'm just going to make sure that, let me just go to my effect control, make sure I don't have any effects applied, which I don't believe I have. No, good. So I just want to make sure this is clean. So here's the thing to remember too. When you're in different lighting situations, you want to take a picture of this under that lighting condition, and that way you can quickly remove any color casts and get a neutral starting place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to take a little picture, and I'm going to call this one color checker. See, I'm being a little smarter now, so if I lose it, I can search for it. And I'm going to click OK. So we've got the color checker, and I believe that that's out at the very top level. There it is. Okay, so now I'm going to edit this one here inside of Photoshop. So we're going to go down here, edit in Adobe Photoshop. All right, so what I'm going to show you here, I'm just getting rid of the other one. We don't need this. What I'm about to show you is super old school. Old school for me, and a lot of people are doing this, but people are maybe a little newer to imaging might not know this, or for whatever reason. Some of you will know this, some of you won't. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a neutral setting based off this photograph. So what we're going to do is we're going to go create an adjustment layer, and we're going to use levels. You could use curves as well, but in this case, I'm going to use levels. And what we want to do is we want to use the eyedroppers, and we're going to set a perfect black, a perfect white, and a perfect gray. So what we want to do is we're going to start with the black, and we want to look for the darkest part, and it happens to be right here. This is the darkest part. This is the black. But there's one thing to bear in mind, and there's something I did here on purpose. If you look at this, this side here is shot in sun, and this side here is shot in shade. So I made sure the sun was hitting one side and not the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two LUTs out of this. It's going to be an open shade and a sunlight. And this will work for any shot that's shot in this kind of condition. Now you're doing things like twilight and stuff like that. You'll want to shoot another picture for that, or sunset if you want to neutralize that. And make sure that whatever lighting condition you're doing, you just grab this. So a lot of the time when I'm rolling, I'll just put this in front of the camera really quick, make sure I've got a few frames, and then I'll continue shooting, and then I've got this known quantity. All right, so what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to double click. We want to set up Photoshop to do this. So just to let you know what I did again, I'm inside a levels adjustment. Same thing would work in curves adjustment. There's our black, there's our white, and there's our gray. So we're going to start with the black, double click it, brings up the color picker. Now I've already set this. B is for brightness under HSB, so that's hue, saturation, brightness. And I'm setting this to 5%. Now sometimes I even go as far on video as I'll go to 10%. Now why am I doing this? Well, let me show you. Let me just take this back to 0 and I'll show you why I'm changing this. So I'm just going to click OK. So if I go for the black picker and I click here on the darkest part, which is the chips, there might be a darker part in the picture, but it doesn't matter. I'm looking at the color chip right now. So I'm going to click there. Notice what it does is it sets the blacks. But notice how dense that is. Sometimes that's desirable. But this is what I'm doing here is if I go there and then I set this to 10, what I'm doing is I'm giving it 10% headroom. You might want to use 5. 5 is kind of what we've always done, but I just feel like 10 gives me a little more wiggle space in video, so that's my personal choice. The rule of thumb is 5, but I'm going for 10. So we're going to click OK, and we're going to set this as the new default volume. So I'm just going to undo the adjustment. Now I'm going to grab the black, and if I click here, notice it says to black, but it doesn't, burn everything out. It gives me just a little bit of playing room, because I like that with my video, because I can always increase a contrast slider later on in the lumetri panel if I want. So I'm going to double click here on the white slider, and under brightness I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set this to 90. Now when I click OK, notice it says you want to set this target as default. When I click yes, what that means is every time I do this, I don't need to have to go in and change these. Notice it remembers those settings. So you only have to do this once. And then every other time you're making your adjustments, those default values are remembered. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the white, and I'm looking for the white chip, which is going to be right there. So I'm going to click on there, and that sets the whites. So if you look, you can see there's already a big change here. So what we've done is we've set our contrast here. So if I turn that off, before and after, notice it's even started to neutralize a lot of the color cast, but we can still neutralize that more by grabbing the gray slider and then going to one of these gray chips, maybe this one here, and notice what that does. Now we've got a really clean white balance. Notice that there's no color cast in there before. If we turn this off, notice we've got a little bit of a warm color cast in here. This completely neutralizes it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a LUT, and we're going to choose File, Export. Now this is more of what I call a utilitarian LUT. So I'm going to save this. So this is not a creative LUT. This is a utility LUT that's going to get rid of the color cast and give us a very clean starting place with our video. So I'm going to call this neutral. I'm just going to end new, and I'm going to call this shade. So we know that this one here was shot in open shade under these lighting conditions. And then I'm going to just save. I'm just going to copy that name and click OK. And we're going to save this down onto the desktop. And the reason I cut that name is so I could paste the name back in so I know it's new shade. I don't have to type it again. Click Save. All right, perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that level, go back to here, and we're going to do this again. Now I'll show you how fast it is, when you're doing this in the real world. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create this for the sunny side. Just notice it has a slightly different color cast in the sun. So I'm just going to grab the black. We're going to hit our black point. Once again, notice I don't have to go in here and change this. Now notice this is reflective, so I'm actually clicking in the darkest part there, and if you want to know where that is, you can actually hit the Alt or the Option key and drag that across, and I will even show you that. So if you wanted to do that, you can do it that way. I'm going to grab the highlight here, and if you want to see the brightest part, you just click from there, you can kind of see that. So there's our brightest part is right there. So we're going to click there with white, and we want to click on that white chip. Notice we're clicking it on the sunny side of things, not in the shade, all right? And then we're going to go here. Now we're going to grab our gray, and we're going to click on our neutral gray. And what that's done now is this is neutralized it for the sun. So notice it looks a little bit cooler than the other one, but that's perfect for this particular LUT. So once again, you're going to grab the black, you're going to click on the black point, you're going to grab the white, you're going to click on the white point, you're going to grab the gray and click on the gray point. Notice that changed just a little bit, and the reason for that is because I wanted to make sure I clicked on that black that was hitting the direct sun, not in the sheltered kind of bit there. All right, so now we're just going to save this, file save as, and not file save as, I'm sorry, file export. And we're going to export this as a LUT, color lookup tables, and we're going to just click OK. And now I'm going to call this one on the desktop. We're going to call this one new for neutral sun. So now we have two LUTs, like starting places, and we can close this. We don't need this anymore. It doesn't really matter. So let's go back to Premiere Pro. Now what we're about to do, once again, this will work in Premiere, it'll work in Photoshop, it'll work in After Effects, because these LUTs work, they work in Final Cut Pro as well. All right, so let's go to some video here. We're going to grab our videos to edit. We've got some footage here. So let me just have a look at this piece of footage. So I'm just going to create this, and we're looking at this. This is a Oahu, Hawaii, my Phantom 3. Now remember that camera that I showed of that color checker was captured with the Phantom 3. So you want to make sure you capture it with the camera that you're using under the lighting conditions that you're using. Okay, so let me close this out, and I'm going to go to my Lumetri panel. So let me just choose Window, Lumetri. Okay, so here we are in the Lumetri panel. So I'm going to go under the Input LUT, and I'm just going to browse. And if I grab this one and I grab our neutral sun, click OK, notice, yeah, it's kind of a little bit dark, but it kind of neutralizes that shade. But that's not maybe the best one. So let's go for the shade. Let's go to the browse here. And we're going to grab this one here and click open, and there we go. That's looking much better. So, because a lot of this here, you notice, is in shade. It's the sunshine is hitting these parts here, but this is the main part there. So, you want to create a custom LUT for each working situation. So if we look at this before and after, it probably looks better because it's nice and warm. We've got that kind of color cast you might like. But here we're applying it, this is neutralizing it so that those whites are going to be whites. So why would you want to do that if it looked better before? Well, because if you have a LUT that maybe you've created for a sunset that you want to apply at this time of the day, and you've got multiple pieces of footage, and you want to apply that same effect, what you want to do is you want to start here, the Input LUT, neutralize it, then you've got a known quantity. Now we can go into the Creative LUTs here. And now we can look at the different kind of LUTs, and we can apply two LUTs right here now inside of Premiere Pro, and you could click on there. And so what you're doing is you're stacking that LUT on top of the neutralized piece of footage. But let's go to something that might show this a little better. Let's go here, and we're going to create it there. So we've got this piece of footage, and now we're going to go back under the Lumetri color, and we want to start with the basic. So let me just click on there, and you can scroll it down. So that's why you'll see there's two LUT inputs here. We've got one under creative, and we've got one under basic. See that? So why do we need both? Well, that's why. So if we do some kind of corrective LUT to start with, so like maybe we're going to browse here, and we're going to create our corrective LUT here, and we're going to apply that. It's a little dark. Let's open up the exposure. We can open up our shadows a little bit. So you can always play around with this. And the other thing that you can do is we can go down here and we go into the creative one. and we can apply a separate LUT. So if we go into the creative LUT here now and I browse and I go to maybe this one here that I created earlier, I can apply that. I've got two. Now this is looking really dark, but we can adjust the intensity. See that? So you can adjust that intensity. You can play around with it. You can do different types of effects here. Right here inside of this folder. Let me go down there. We can warm it up if we want. So you can still go in and add these creative adjustments to these afterwards. So we're going to go there. Let me go like this. I'm just kind of creating some kind of just so it looks a little different, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. So we're going to boost our whites a little bit, give it some real heavy blacks. So it's kind of, a little bit more cinematic looking. And we can even go down here. Let me show you this inside the limited color here. And we're going to go to our color wheels, and we can do different things like maybe in our highlights, we might want to push those towards the oranges. It's kind of like a typical look that they would do in film, which is like they'll push this up a little bit, and notice we can adjust it here. So you can adjust how much you want to apply to that. And if you hold down the Shift key, you can move it much faster in faster increments. So what we're doing here is just warming up those highlights, and we could go here and we could cool down our shadows a little bit more. And for more, kind of cinematic style there. And then when we've done that, we can click on here and we can choose to export that as a LUT, and we'll call it Cine Webinar. So I know that was the one I created in the webinar. Click Save. And now we've actually got a combination of all these adjustments that we can apply, once again, straight back onto any piece of footage instantly. And we can also, we can apply that to photos inside of Photoshop too if you wanted. So let me show you something here, like maybe we're working on this. Let me create this new timeline out of that. So there we go. So we've got that. And you could apply that LUT back in there if you wanted. Of course, I have no idea where I saved it. I could do a little search here. Okay, so I saved that as a speed grade LUT. Okay, so that was not what I wanted to do. Let me go back. Maybe I'll put in that one. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to save this as a cube. And I'm going to call this one Surfy, and I'm going to drop this on the desktop. Make sure we're on the desktop there. Okay, so we're going to save that. There we go. Now we can go back in here. I know I'm terrible with my panels. I get my panels all over the place sometimes. And now we can browse. And there's our Surfy cube. There we go. Now we can click open, and that very same LUT that we've created, we're able to bring back in there, and we can do it that way. Now, here's one thing I'm going to show you. Let me undo that. If you bring it in here under the Creative LUT, which we can also bring it in, as I showed you before, the good thing about bringing it in here is that we can adjust the intensity. So there it is with no effect. There it is, like overdone. So, because obviously each piece of footage is going to look slightly different. So a LUT is a good starting place. If you have a bunch of footage, like maybe you were shooting, an actor, or you were shooting a particular scene at the same time of the day, then you can use that LUT on all those same pieces of footage because it's going to match. But then when you want to bring it across other pieces of footage, say for example, like I did the color correction right here in California. This is in Hawaii, so the lighting would have been a little bit different. Then in this case, you can go and apply your LUT, and then you might want to tweak it a little bit and just try different things. So once you've applied it, you're not stuck with it. You can still tweak it, as you can see here. So you always want to customize it. Just like if you applied an action in Photoshop and then you've got a different photograph, you're going to have to edit it. But if you've got a series of video here, this same LUT is going to work without any tweaking or any adjustments right across the board there. So that's it there. So let me just show you here. Let me go into Photoshop for a second. Actually, why don't I take a frame? Let's go back into Premiere. And I'm just going to take a frame out of somewhere. So let me just collapse that. And I don't know, let's grab a frame out of here. So let me just neutralize. I'm just going to go into my effects here and turn off the effect here. And let's get rid of that. Okay, so there we go. Make sure that's unedited. Good. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a still frame here, and then we're going to grab this and bring it into Photoshop. Now, this could be a photograph you're working with. I'm just doing this to save me hunting for a photograph because I'm getting a little bit off script. All right, so here we are, and we're in the layers right now. So this is how we're going to apply the same LUT that we just created in Premiere Pro inside of Photoshop. So if we go under the adjustment layers here, we're going to choose color lookup, and then we want to load our LUT. You'll notice in the properties panel here, we can load our LUT file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, and we're going to load our file. Let's go to the desktop, and there we go. We get our Surfy cube and click open, and boom, look at that. So that same LUT that we created inside of Premiere Pro, we're able to also use inside of Photoshop and add to our photos. Now, of course, you can change the opacity down if you don't like it. You can kind of, blend it in however you like, create other adjustment layers, and then you can even export another LUT out of there. So really the point of everything I was trying to show you was, if you use one of these, you can create a neutral LUT. Now, what I recommend, and did look a little weird on mine, I'm going to confess that, and that's because I just used a generic picture that I shot outside, not in the same lighting conditions. For this to work, you want to take a picture of your video color checker in the location where you're shooting that piece of footage, and then you apply it to that piece of footage. It's going to beautifully neutralize it because you now have a known quantity. So I'll just hold this up in front of the camera a lot when I do that. So that's going to enable you to create a neutralizing LUT. But then the other thing I wanted to show you here was you can go in, you can make adjustments inside of Photoshop and save it as a LUT, or you can make adjustments here inside of Premiere Pro and save it as a LUT, and then those LUTs are going to work for everything. So that LUT will work on your video, and it will work on your photos. It goes backwards and forwards. So honestly, not a lot of people are really using LUTs right now inside of Photoshop, and video is starting to become quite popular. And there's LUT preset packs you can get, and then there's stuff that ships with it. But to me, LUTs really are the future because you can get so much more. They're so flexible. They work between different programs, and that's something that I'm working with a lot more these days with my photos and videos because I can just share it and reuse it across the two. Round trip. It's just so flexible. So, look for more tutorials. I'm actually going to be doing more tutorials on color lookup tables. And in the future, I don't have anything right now, but in the future, at some point, I'm probably going to be creating some LUT packs. I'll have some LUTs I can give you for free. If you go to PhotoshopCAFE.com and check it out, I'll have something up there soon. I'll give you guys some. And then I'll probably have different commercial packs and all that kind of stuff with it. So anyway, that was just a little bit. I hope you guys found that useful. I'm going to open the panel now, and we're going to have a look at the questions and answers. So if you guys got any questions, I will provide the answers. So let me open up the questions here, and we'll see what we've got. Hello from Wisconsin. Where should a custom LUT be stored? Okay, well, let me answer that. So the custom LUT, well, and as you saw here, I was able to share that. I just stored it on my desktop. You can put it wherever you want. One of the places I would recommend is maybe just put it on Dropbox, and then you've got those LUTs available no matter where you're working and what machine you're working on. I tend to do that. I just find them useful there. You could drag them under the presets folder in Premiere or in Photoshop, but the problem with that then, when you're working on the other program, you need to access it. So I save them on Dropbox, and then no matter what program, if I'm using Premiere Pro, I'm using After Effects, I'm using Photoshop, I can access it from any of them. If you re-edit the parameters of a LUT in Photoshop, will it save it again and save it again? Will it update the LUT? That's probably what you're asking here. Let me see if I can double. Here we go. If you re-edit the parameters of a LUT in Photoshop and save it again, will it update the effect of the LUT in Premiere? No, you have to create a new LUT. So you would just create a new one whenever you adjust it. So thank you. Can you apply a LUT to selectively to one part of a video frame? Let's have a look at that. I believe you can mask these. Yeah, I mean, you could mask it inside of the video. Let me just move some of these panels. I don't know if you guys see these panels everywhere. I'm going to just reset my workspace here because I'm used to when I do my video, just full disclosure, I work on two monitors and I'm not trying to jam everything onto my little laptop here. So it's a very different way of working. So when we're under, let me close that, let me close this, and we're going to bring up our Lumetri panel. So we've got something applied there. Let's go into effect control. Okay. So let me open up my, I must have a, let me do Lumetri. Show you. Okay, so I'm just going to apply something just at random. So let's just go creative here, and we'll just randomly apply LUT here just for the sake of, let's do that just for the sake of editing. And then if you look down on here, you'll see that we can create these masks inside of Premiere. So if I grab these masks, this is just a polygon, you know, we can do circles, we can actually have them track whatever we want to do. So you could have that. Notice what I'm doing here is I'm just tracking an object. So if you had one area maybe that was brighter, well, what about this over here? Okay, so we want to maybe apply it here. I probably should have used the oval. I'm just thinking a little bit more practical all of a sudden. So if we put that there, you know, we can create those masks. We can feather those masks. See that? So that will soften the edge and it will blend this in. Let me just pull that up a little bit. We can invert it, so we're only applying it. See that? We can apply it outside of that area, or we can apply it inside there. Now, when there's movement, if you actually just hit that little play button, that will actually track the mask. So if you've got someone's face and it's too bright and you want to apply that LUT just to that body or that face, it will actually track that between the different frames. So yes, it can do that. So where do we go here? So the different formats, these are just different formats, like, you know, we've got a 3D LUT, we've got cubes, and it's just compatibility with different types of programs like SpeedGrade or whatnot. As you saw, I tried to do this, the 3DL, and you notice that I wasn't able to open one of those. I think I did it, was it the cube or the 3DL that I did, because I saved it out as from the SpeedGrade one. That would work in SpeedGrade and it would work inside of Premiere Pro, but it didn't work in Photoshop. So it's just compatibility. How to save a custom LUT for future as a preset. I think, was that recently? Do you want to review that? Let's give a look. Would I be able to import a SpeedGrade? Yes, we would from SpeedGrade. We'll come back to that one at the end. So yeah, we can. How do LUTs affect different cameras and RAW formats and such? Well, a LUT basically is just it's a preset, it's a saved collection of adjustments. So rather than just saving, you know, our brightness or just our contrast, we can put all of them. So it's kind of like a recipe that we would save. You can't apply it in Camera Raw, so Camera Raw doesn't support LUTs. So what it is just those adjustments that we're making. You know, I like to call it a recipe, and you know, we could do it in Photoshop, we could do it in Premiere Pro. You know, maybe you could create a custom one here, like, you know, just to darken down that bit of the sky and just reuse it. So what you want to really do is start to build up a collection of LUTs and name them in a, you know, something that makes sense to you so you can reuse them. So that's kind of how they would affect the different formats. And once again, you know, you can't use it in ACR. So I apologize about that. Well, it's not my fault. Okay, 4K versus 2K versus HD, doesn't matter. Some of this footage I'm working here is 1080, and some of this footage, if I go in here, I've got some 4K footage, it will make absolutely no difference. The LUT will apply. Actually, I don't really need to show, I'll just tell you that. It'll work exactly the same on 4K. Or, you know, 6K. Can I do this in Photoshop 6? No, but Photoshop CS6 is what you mean. I know, I'm just being silly. I believe Photoshop CS6 does support LUTs. Yeah, it's not new in CC, so I think CS6 is when it was added, so yes, you can. And that LUT, you don't have to update it. It'll work for CS6 and CC. Same with the different versions of Premiere Pro. The Lumetri panel was added in CC, but different. If you're still on CC 2015 and you're not on the 2017, that doesn't matter. Those LUTs will work fine. You don't have to update them or anything like that. Which layer adjustments do not save as LUTs? Most of the adjustment layers will, except for the camera raw, so you can't save an ACR. Hopefully, that's something that can be done in the future. That would be really cool. Hey, Laurie, how you doing? You'll be using LUTs now. Awesome. I think LUTs are awesome, and I'm going to see if I can say your name. Mamsilo? Mamsilo? I think I'm saying it right. Hopefully, I'm not butchering your name. You're welcome, because I know you asked a question earlier on here. So, okay, guys, unless you've got any more questions here, I think I'm done.